All right, let's dive right into one of history's greatest puzzles. We're talking about the missing years of Jesus. What happened during that huge gap in his life story?
The official record just goes completely blank. We see him as a 12-year-old kid in Jerusalem, and then nothing. For 18 years. He just reappears as a man in his 30s, ready to start his ministry. So the question that has haunted people for literally centuries is, where did he go?
And to really get a feel for how big this mystery is, we first have to wrap our heads around the silence itself. 18 years. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's long enough for a baby to grow into a legal adult. And for one of the most pivotal figures in all of human history, this isn't just a minor detail. This is everything. His entire education, his spiritual development, what made him who he was. It's this complete blank space that makes the story so unbelievably compelling. It's like an empty canvas, and you better believe people have been trying to paint on it for a very, very long time. And that void has led to some, well, let's just say some really unconventional theories. And that brings us to a very different kind of source material, from a researcher named Dolores Cannon. Now, Cannon was not your typical historian digging through ancient scrolls. Nope. She was a hypnotherapist, and over decades of work, she said that these incredible details about Jesus' life just kept popping up again and again from totally different people under deep hypnosis. These people had no connection to each other, but Cannon became convinced she was tapping into some kind of lost history. Her method is called past life regression. The idea is that you can use hypnosis to access memories from previous lives. Now look, I know this is controversial stuff, way out there for a lot of people, but the narrative she pieced together is surprisingly consistent and incredibly detailed. And the absolute bombshell at the center of all her sessions was this. Jesus spent those missing years being trained by the Essenes, a super disciplined, highly spiritual Jewish community that lived in seclusion out near the Dead Sea. But here's the thing. This claim doesn't just exist in its own little world. It lands smack dab in the middle of a huge, ongoing debate among professional historians and theologians. And this right here is the core conflict. On one hand, Cannon's work suggests Jesus basically graduated from Essene University, learning their laws, their healing methods, everything. But on the other hand, you have major scholars like John Dominic Crossan who argue that Jesus' whole public ministry was actually a rejection of the Essenes' choice to hide away from the world. And the academic debate isn't just a simple yes or no, it's a whole spectrum. You've got guys like Giza Vermes, who sees the influence but says Jesus was constantly breaking their strict rules. Then there's Lawrence Schiffman, who sees tension, not training, arguing Jesus softened their laws with mercy. And Robert Eisenman suggests something else entirely, that Jesus didn't reject the Essenes. He just took their ideas and put them on overdrive. Okay, so let's just go with this idea for a minute. If Jesus did have this deep training, it begs a massive question. Why is it totally scrubbed from the official record? Why would the story we all know completely erase that part of his life? Well, from this perspective, the reasons are all about power. First, the idea of a trained Jesus, one who had to learn and study, kind of threatens the concept of innate God-given divinity. It also ties him directly to a specific Jewish group, which got awkward later on as Christianity tried to separate itself. And, maybe most importantly, institutions tend to prefer a one-of-a-kind savior over a teacher who shows a path that, theoretically, anyone could follow. And this is where we move beyond a simple historical debate and get into the really big spiritual ideas that are on trial here. Because what Cannon's work really uncovers is this fundamental clash of beliefs. On one side, you have the doctrine of a single miraculous resurrection, a one-time event that solidifies the authority of the institution that interprets it. But on the other side, you have reincarnation, this idea of an ongoing journey of learning and growth, which puts all the responsibilities squarely on the individual. And the argument from this material is pretty blunt. It claims that reincarnation was deliberately removed because it empowers you, the individual, to manage your own spiritual journey. And if you can do that, well, maybe you don't need a big institution to save you. And it wasn't just ideas that were allegedly written out of the story. It was people. The regression material talks again and again about the central role of women, not as quiet followers in the background, but as powerful teachers and initiates. Mary Magdalene is portrayed as a true peer, someone who got the deepest teachings. Their authority didn't come from a title. It came from personal insight and experience, which was a direct challenge to a formal top-down structure. So after going down this rabbit hole of hidden history and challenging ideas, where in the world does that leave us? Ultimately, when you look at all of this, you uncover this deep fundamental tension, a split in how we approach spirituality that's just as real today as it was 2,000 years ago. It really comes down to two different paths to the divine. You have institutional faith, which is built on established doctrine, hierarchy, and a history that can't be repeated. And then you have personal spirituality, which is all about your own direct experience, your own inner transformation, and a journey of growth that anyone can take. The whole mystery of the missing years really forces you to ask which path resonates more with you. Which brings us to the final, very provocative question that Dolores Cannon herself liked to ask. As you've been listening to all of this, the hidden history, the conflicting ideas, does it feel like you're learning something totally new for the first time? Or does some little part of it feel less like learning and more like you're just remembering something you, on some deeper level, already knew? And the answer to that, well, that's entirely up to you.